You'd figure after 22 episodes, we'd get this right.
It's not about being right. It's about getting it right.
That's right. So this goes to show you it's not the quality of the content, or it's not the let me back up. Not the broadcast quality of your content. It's the quality of your content you're trying to get across, right?
Right.
All right. We're officially live. I can't see any comments right now because my phone is propped up next to my Wegmans grapefruit sparkling water. So you're gonna have to.
Yo, one thing I might do on your computer, I would pull your Zoom window in, so then that way it'll stack us on top of each other and it'll fit in your live stream perfectly.
How's that?
Working on it. I'm on like a 6-second delay here.
Oh, man. If this episode isn't the most 2020 thing ever, I don't know what is.
Nailed it. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Sick.
All right. Jason, if you're watching, we'd love to have you in. I know you have a couple of branding, personal branding pivot questions. Just use that same Zoom link that I gave to you, if you don't mind, please, because I don't want to touch my phone right now. What I was trying to say about a half an hour ago when we effed this whole thing up was one of my strategic partners, they're in the entertainment industry. And one of the things that they are trying to accomplish is diversifying their revenue streams and doing something different. And this is something that you and I talk about quite a bit. But one of the things they're doing is because the concerts and the events and things like that just aren't happening right now, one of the ways they were trying to think outside the box was what else can they do? So they found me because of the beverage aspect. So we're building this whole beverage based on one of his songs. It's super, super interesting. But he sees that as a potential revenue extension. Can you point to any other people and or examples that you think have done a good job of thinking outside the box to drive revenue in a non-traditional way through all of this?
I think everybody has. I mean, people that are succeeding, I think just about everybody has. We've actually had numerous conversations this week that we kind of had to give a little tough love to some clients where, you're straight up not going to be able to make money the way you used to in a lot of cases. So I think that looking at anything that you can do the same way that we talk about, like when you're starting a business, what boxes do you have to check? I think the same thing applies here, with the big thing that's changing being how are you going to create value for people with what you love and what you're good at? So specific examples I think is tough, because I think that a lot of people that are at the forefront are such big businesses and big entities that it's hard for them to kind of be nimble. Mm-hmm. But, people that are smaller like that, I mean, like we've talked, until we're blue in the face about, restaurants adapting to the takeout game and, people shifting to more direct to consumer type stuff where everything's online. But, I think that there's countless people that have, kind of looked at kind of changing revenue models. I think us, specifically, so much of our stuff has been just shifted to actual planning. So I didn't realize how much planning we were actually doing beyond just the marketing strategy stuff. So, I mean, we have the last 2 clients we signed. I feel like they're just paying me to, be an intelligent voice in the room.
Yeah.
And that's it. Which would have been wild to me 5 or 6 years ago, but now it's like, whew, let's go.
It's fun. It's fun when you get paid to speak for a living, and it's fun to get paid to talk about your experiences and how you can translate those to future business. Analyzing current business. That's why I call, somebody asked me, what do you do? I'm strategic. I call myself a strategic consultant for that very reason, because it's different with every single client that you work with. Just because it works with this beverage client doesn't mean it's going to work with this technology client, or doesn't mean it's going to work with this marketing client. Everybody is different. And I think one of the things that's interesting is, you know, when you do diversify income strategies and you do diversify revenue strategies, you don't know if one of those is going to become your primary revenue strategy. That's what makes all of this so fun. And we talk about this all the time, the 80-20, 80%, 20%. When that 20%, we're not just talking about our time, we're potentially talking about your literally how much you're folding up and putting in your pocket. And that becomes real fun sometimes.
No, 100%, you know, and I think that's kind of the, you know, the fun part in all this is that you kind of, you know, looking at it, you kind of get to put yourself out of business in some regards. Mm-hmm. Where, you know, like we talked about, that's all that, you know, people get caught up in buzzwords, but like that's all that innovation buzzword is just coming up with new stuff, you know, and the quicker you can solve that problem for somebody and the quicker you can apply your talents and your literal just sweat equity into it, the faster you're going to get there. You know, people need different stuff that they needed this time last year. And if you can in any way fulfill that, guess what? You can get paid for it. Boom, like new revenue stream, you know, and that's just, it's just wild to think about the just sheer opportunity that exists out there. Like it's crazy right now. It's the Wild West. Nobody has any idea what's going to happen, when, or how to do it, or how to thrive, or how to succeed. So if you could be kind of jump to that and be one of the first people that can solve one of those problems, you're golden.
Why is it so important to flip on a camera and talk?
Because nobody knows how smart you are or how good you are or the level of value that you can provide unless you show them. You know, I think this has been one of the biggest things. I actually used one of our videos the other day where we have a client that's onboarding and they're like, hey, the stuff that we would normally hire you to do, we can't do. Like, what do you think we should do? I sent them episode 4. I'm like, this. You know what I mean? Like, watch it. And then by the time we had our second call, it was like we had 3 calls before that because they got to know me and how I approach that and just some of the brainstorm ideas. And they're like, that we never thought about doing X, Y, and Z. And then we watched this episode and da-da-da. Like, and literally just, you're already seeing it. Just that long form, long tail of value that you're going to get off of that, because it's literally just putting everything out there. I feel like we have 120 fishing poles in the water right now. Rather than thinking about going fishing tomorrow morning, we have I guess in our case, we have 22 fishing poles in the water. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Even if 10% of those catch fish, you know, we're catching 2 or 3 fish at a time. Yep. And that's only because we've literally flipped this camera on and talk just like we do every day. We just record it.
Yep. And it's just so everybody understands that this is how Adam and I talk. This is how we strategize. We have joint clients. We have joint opportunities together. This is how we would simply turn on the phone. Instead of hitting accept on a phone call, it's hitting record on a Zoom call. And even though the technology aspect of it is driving my blood pressure crazy right now that it's not working, this is just the live part of it for us is simply gravy. You know, the reason we record this is so we have an opportunity to put it on YouTube where it's going to be much higher quality, right? This Facebook right now with my phone sitting up against my water is not the way we want to do this, but at least the punchline is at least we're doing it. At least we're flipping it on and recording 22 so that when we're on number 122 and it's in a fully furnished studio and we're doing this in person and we do this once a week and this show potentially becomes our fold up and put money in our pocket because we have $100,000 sponsors because it's grown. If that happens, we can look back and be like, hey, remember when you almost had an aneurysm on episode 22 because the technology didn't work? Remember that? That's real. That's real, is using that experience to see if one person can have some sort of benefit from listening to a 15-second clip of now almost the 24 hours of product we've done.
And it's going to be one of those things that, like, it's weird that, like, everything's there. Like, you don't have to guess what to do next. You just have to watch what's happening and watch what people are responding to and just pay attention to how you're consuming stuff. And then you just go do that. You know, the same way that everybody was screaming about having a podcast 3 years ago, but nobody fucking did it. And then now all of a sudden, everybody and their sister has at least one, if not three. Because now's the time. But it's so noisy out there that it's so much harder to succeed. You know, the same way that like the guy who invented White Claw is a fucking trillionaire now because it was the first hard seltzer. Now there's literally, you go to any kind of like beer store like that, there's 39 kind of seltzers with a black cherry, a lemon lime, a mango, and a this. And you're just like, what are you doing?
If Coca-Cola can do it, everybody's going to do it. Did you see that?
100% I did. And you're just like, what are you doing?
The lines have totally been blurred with everything that is happening. I want to get real granular with you. We have so really good question. I want your input before I give you my input with our friends the Raymores in the Finger Lakes. For those of you that don't know, Herb and Pam have been clients of mine. More importantly, they've been friends of mine for many years. They own a very small winery, very small tasting room in the Finger Lakes in East Bloomfield outside Canandaigua. Their specific question is this. With everything that's going on, it's very difficult to have people walk into your tasting room. It's just simply very, very hard. What they're finding is very few local people are walking in the door because they're just not comfortable. Like me, I'm a perfect example. You would not find me going into a tasting room right now. I'm not comfortable doing it. Siobhan is not comfortable doing it. So what they're finding is a lot of the people that they have are from out of town. They're from Pittsburgh, they're from Cleveland, they're from New York, they're New York City, they're from New Jersey. What they're finding on their Facebook and Instagram feeds are ads from all of the other winery owners saying, come to our property, come in our tasting room, we're safe, we're sanitary, we're clean, we're distancing, we're masking, we're doing all of those things. So the question is, the strategy for them in a low budget campaign, awareness campaign, what would be your message to them, how they could potentially stick out from all the other people saying, come in and buy our stuff, we're open, we're clean, we're sanitary?
Well, I think first and foremost, they have to decide if that's what makes the most sense right now. I mean, we always talk about it. The first thing that you have to look at is, what does the world look like out there? It's not about us and what we want to happen. It's about what's occurring out there. And then the mere fact that, like, if you have a, small to mid-sized winery in the Finger Lakes of New York, and that place has historically relied heavily on tourist traffic, and now tourists from 36 states are literally forbidden from coming here. We got to change the strategy there, So I don't know if I would necessarily like, how do you stick out from the dozens of other wineries that are saying, hey, come into our tasting room because we're following this protocol? I think that's the equivalent of the full listserv email that everybody sent out in April. Here's how brand X that I don't care about is dealing with COVID. Like, shut the fuck up. We get it. So I think the big thing with there is, how could you leverage what makes the Raymore special and what sets them apart, and meld that with what the world looks like now? We talked about it. I don't even remember what episode it was, but a while ago, I wouldn't plan on making a single dollar in the tasting room this summer. I really wouldn't. Instead, like, what I would do is I would literally try to find a way, especially with those guys and just the fusions and things they have like that, set up like a virtual tasting room where, like, you almost do like a box type subscription where, can we, find a way to, and I'm spitballing here and it's tough to, move this quickly on that scale, but like, is there a way to do more smaller samples of the fusion that people maybe aren't familiar with? Maybe the intro sample pack is $40. I don't know what it costs. And then you let people buy that. And then you say, hey, whichever one you like best, have your first bottle of that included. So maybe for $60, you get a sampler and your first bottle of, if I don't know what flavors are, but like apple, grape, the best. Great. That's what we're going to send you a bottle of. And then make it very easy where they could opt in weekly or monthly, and like you ship them this whole thing, where maybe it's a bottle of wine, 2 Raymore Estates glasses, and 2 scones or the pastry or whatever they're doing lately, and have that be the thing. And then be like, Herb's going to be live at whatever 7:30 on Tuesdays for this week's virtual tasting, and set up a Zoom call like this where everybody can hang out in the same room and talk about it and ask questions and stuff like that, and then see how far out that can grow. That would be my approach to it.
I love it.
Because you're right. Even as soon as it is legal or it is permitted, people aren't just going to come flooding back. They're just not.
I was talking about this with Siobhan the other day. I don't know at what point I will feel comfortable sitting inside of a restaurant or sitting inside of a tasting room. I don't know. If you asked me today, I would say no. The only outdoor dining experience we've had is at the Braylock. We sat outside on the lawn. That felt okay. But even when I go in to pick up food, I don't want to hang out inside for very long, just based on everything that's going on. Here's what I told them, that I would just come out and tell the truth on a video. I would come out and say, you know what? Here's what's happening in our tasting room. We're getting a lot of people from outside of New York State, and they've actually denied people that have called from outside. They had people call from South Carolina, and they said, hey, have you quarantined for 14 days before calling? And I give the other people a lot of credit that were on the other side of the phone. They said, no, we have not quarantined. And Herb actually said, I'm sorry, but we cannot accept you into our facility. He turned away probably $80 because the risk reward of it was $80 versus potentially getting the virus. And it just was not a fair exchange for him. So here's what I told him. I said, get on a video and say because they're trying to attract more local people, that they love the local repeat business. Mm-hmm. They love the tourists. Everybody's money is green, but they want that repeat local business. So I said, listen, get on a video and say, we know you don't want to come to our tasting room. We know that. Our numbers are showing that you do not want to walk into our tasting room right now. It's not because we're not good people, because we are. It's not because we have a crummy portfolio. They don't. They were on pace that have a record-setting year until this all happened. We understand that people are not comfortable. So because we don't want to force you into our tasting room, we want to zig when everybody's zagging. Everybody's saying, you're getting pinged with all of these. You're not going to crush anybody, but you're getting pinged with all of these messages from other wineries to come visit us. What if we flip the script and we brought the winery to you? What if you texted me at this number and said, I want 3 bottles of Fusion, I want 2 bottles of cider, I want a keg of wine, I want all this. And I will bring it to you, contactless delivery, call me with your credit card, I'll put it in a 30-mile radius, I'll put it on your front doorstep. And what if that was the ad? So when I'm scrolling, scrolling, and every single one is come visit us, and I see a winery that says, I know you're scared to walk into our tasting room, I want to bring that experience to you. At least your message is different. At least you're 1 out of 15 that has empathy, because people don't want to walk into a tasting room, and you're putting the customer's values ahead of your own. That's what I told them to do, and I think they're going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And and to go back, and I've made our process so mechanical and just so step-by-step driven that that's just where my brain goes to. And then the other big thing that they have to look at to make that happen, I think that's great. Content and messaging, that's 1,000,000% what I would do. You don't want to come out, we get it. Let us bring the winery to you. Awesome, dope. And then whatever the picture is of Herb delivering whatever, awesome. The only thing that you have to be cognizant of there is if 80% of your Facebook and your Instagram followers are tourists from out of town, and you're just going to post that message and organically hope that it does that, that's going to be tough.
Okay.
But if you spent even $50 targeting, like we went through in episode 14, targeting wine drinkers within however far you want to drive for deliveries, and let that run for a week and then see how that goes, that's going to change it. Maybe you even like the message of the content is like, you know, Canandaigua locals. We know you don't want to come out to the winery, so we're going to bring the winery to you. Da, 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 da. And then literally target wine drinkers within 20 miles of the winery.
Love it.
Then you're cooking with gas.
Yep, I love it. Let me switch gears on you. Let me ask you, why is it so easy for people that have the attention to launch different brands or services or products? And why do you think those are successful? And what steps do you feel as though you have to go through once you have the attention to roll out other products, brands, extension lines, things like that? And you know, I'll give you the example. I work with a lot of musicians, and a lot of them want to get into the beverage space. So that's where my head's at right now. Why do you think it's so easy for them? I use that term very loosely, very easy for them to launch that out and put that on their Instagram story and be successful?
Because attaining and retaining attention is the single hardest thing to do from a marketing or sales or product launch standpoint in 2020. The blessing and the curse of the internet or social media, however you want to look at it, is that it is infinitely easy for anybody to get out there and say whatever they want. So supply and demand. The supply is huge of content out there. There's never any content out there. Your feed is insane right now. So to get in there is tough. Where these guys have it, I think, like they've done the hard part. They've branded themselves, they've built an audience, and they've done that by delivering something that their audience gives a fuck about. In your musicians' cases, obviously it's the music, it's the content, it's the videos, it's the lifestyle, it's the brand that goes with it. They clearly possess, you know, a proper mix of talent and awareness and how to leverage that talent to build their audience. They've done 80% of the work already. So whatever they put out there now, you know, it's just they're cashing in all that social equity that they've already built. Mm-hmm. So like it seems that transactionally that seems easy, but these guys have done years, if not decades of work on the back end to build an audience that they've built a connection with, that they care about, that's going to buy whatever it is they're selling.
Love it. Love it. Allison, Jason, Tom, Eric, Ingrid, Justin, 2 Justins watching. Cheers, Lottie. Good to see you. Lottie Dottie, we likes to party. And Bob, let's see, Bob says, for the winery folks, make an event that locals can be attracted to. A day away is only an hour drive. Have food outside, people outside, have people sign up combined with their branding messages, no more than 10 people or smaller, small group tutorials or tours. Great idea. Our mutual buddy Eric Crone says, I love how Naked Wines does group buying of small vineyards, almost like a co-op of, you know, selling off their vineyard. And you come in and pick, and you do all the crushing process, all the bottling process, and you see the entire way through the experience of making your own wine that comes from your own portion of the vineyard. Super, super cool. I love that. A couple more questions. Bob asked, he's busting my chops. This is such a professional event, holding your phone. And I go, Bob, it's usually not like this way. Is this even allowed doing your Zoom sessions? Yes, this is allowed as far as we know, until we get shut down. And if we get shut down and get a cease and desist letter, then you know what? We're doing something right. So
100%.
There you go. On Bob's question, his comment about the private reserved time slots and all those things. Care about that stuff? Do people care about reserving something? Do people have the attention span to reserve ahead of time? Because I'll tell you, in my experience, I have zero tolerance for making reservations for things. I really don't. Like I'll text people in the next 2 hours, like, hey, want to go on a cocktail cruise tonight? Want to go hang? You know, want to grab fish fry from the Braylock? Do people still do that? And if so, how do you reach those people?
Well, I mean, it all depends on what's on the other end of what you're making a reservation for. You know, are you going to make an exclusive reservation for a wine tasting on a Saturday? I don't know, because you could do that at a lot of places. You know, would you make a reservation to, I don't want to put anybody out there, some of your clients, if they said, hey, I have 100 of these hoodies and you have to make a reservation to even have a chance to buy one, that'd sell out in 17 seconds.
Right.
So it all depends on the value that's on the other end of it. You know, that's the specific instance that we're talking about. That's the other thing, you know, for a business to make the amount of money that they have to make for it to be worthwhile to them, you know, and you're talking groups of 10, that better be the most premium of all premium events that you could attach an appropriate price tag to.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of look at everything in the aggregate, I think. But will people make reservations for stuff? For sure, you know. But it all just depends on how bad they want what's on the other end of it.
Right. But does this come back to your attention point? Is it the same thing?
100%. Everything. Spoiler alert. Everything comes back to attention. Absolutely everything. It's what we try to just grab for our clients every single day, and even in life. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have the person's attention on whatever you're trying to sell them, and we'd always default to business because that's what we do. But the same thing's like, you know, in your personal life, you know, if there's, you know, a girl that you want to date or somebody that you want to be friends with or somebody you want to make a connection with, what's the one thing that you need before you can make any of that happen? Mm-hmm. That person's attention. So I just think that's the currency for everything. And that's why people laugh. Like, you know, there's restaurants that have been in town here for like 60 years and they've had literally spent 6 decades building attention with their client base. And then they'll post something and it'll take off. And then something, well, why can't we posted the same thing? Why didn't it work? If you don't have 1/10 of the attention that they do.
Why is it so important to post consistent? It's an easy question for us to answer, but I think sometimes we get too much into the weeds on some answers. Why is it so important to be consistent with your posting about what you're posting?
The same reason it's important to talk to important people in your life consistently. The same reason it's important to work out consistently. The same reason it's important to sleep and brush your teeth consistently. You know, this is just life. Sometimes that we try to put Instagram and Facebook in these just boxes where we think it's a different universe over there. Like, it's literally just people's lives put down on paper, put down on a computer screen, put down on a news feed. So, like, you know, like, why is it important to do consistent? The same reason it's important to do everything consistently. If you want more of it to happen and you want to see results, like, that's where I just had a call this morning with a client where literally, like, we're going through it. You want to be on the show? You can be on we're doing the show. You want to be on it? Like, the same reason that I tell people like Harrison, who's trying to grow his video business, why do you have to post consistently?
5?
Yeah. Yeah, you're already on now. Hey, people, we're talking about.
You got to answer it.
We're talking about the importance of consistency.
Consistency is key.
But why?
Why?
Oh man, you really put me on the spot here. I don't know. Were we talking about branding or
life?
Life consistency is key. Well, in movies, consistency is key. People will call you out if you have things wrong in the next scene. Branding wise, for our business, I mean, as soon as we change something, people are expecting another thing. So I don't know. You kind of have to keep it.
If you're building a YouTube channel, are you posting 5 times a week or once a month?
Hopefully 5. Well, it depends, but 5 times a week, you're trying to get as much content out in the beginning to start. But it depends.
Would you be better putting out 5 really good videos or 1 great one?
Probably 5 really good.
Why?
The difference between the good and the really great, the majority of your audience won't know, I would say, in my opinion. Depends on who your audience is. If I'm making a film for film critics, maybe I'd put out 1. But if I'm making a YouTube channel, I'd rather have 5 really good, whereas the average viewer doesn't really.
Would that be because the more people see you and enjoy your content, the more they're likely to engage with you and continue to watch it?
Absolutely. That's why you put out as much platform and as much area as possible way before you start honing in on just YouTube, just this, just that.
Where do you draw the line of great answer, by the way. Where do you draw the line of perfect being the enemy of good enough? Where do you draw that line when you're making a film?
For good enough?
Yeah.
That's tough for me because Adam knows very well nothing's good enough for me when it comes to a video. Mm-hmm. I would hold it for weeks and weeks if it was up to me. However, the one thing that changed us is when we used to make vlogs and we would have to post them before midnight that night. So we would stay, it was back at the incubator, we would stay there until 10, 11, and then it would hit midnight and we'd say, guess what? That's good enough because we gave ourselves an internal deadline. So sometimes it's not necessarily about what you think is good enough. You just have to cut it at some point. You could always ask someone else. Like Adam might say at 4 p.m. that day, guys, this is good enough. But if it was up to me, I'd probably be there till 11.
Whose opinion is more important, yours or your audience?
The audience by far. Oh, by far. Because what I'm doing from 4 to 11 to switch that vlog up, Adam would never even know.
Correct.
He would never know. I'd be like, oh yeah, did you see that mask I made? And I added that clip, and Adam would be like, didn't catch it. Either way, I would have subscribed.
I love that. That's a great answer. I love that. Because sometimes we're always our own worst critics, right? Yeah. So always. So it's so hard. And people just get crippled by the fear that it's not the perfect post or the perfect Instagram selfie or the perfect this or whatever. It's like, no, bro, like just get it out there. Let the world be the judge and jury. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And I think doing something rather than not posting anything, people just having any content, people like it. It doesn't really matter what it is. Mm-hmm. As long as it's not way out of your brand or whatever. I mean, but then again, sometimes people's branding is their life and everything. So again, you could post anything and it's better than nothing, in my opinion.
Anything is always better than nothing.
Yeah.
One is always greater than 0.
100%.
All right.
Love it.
Thanks, guys. Great. It was a nice little pop-in.
That was nice. I have to talk to you about video stuff, so text me. Yeah, I told you you're supposed to call me all week. It's fucking Friday, dude.
Wear your mask, people.
Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Yo, I DM'd you.
We'll do a whole episode on South 60 and the dynamic I have with those guys.
Oh, I love it. I'm fresh out of questions. What you got for me? Let's wrap it up. We got started late. Sorry.
So I think the one thing that I was going to bring up with you, because I've had a lot coming up, is working in client services. A lot of times, whether we like it or not, whether we plan it or not, whether it's in the scope or not, in which case it almost definitely never is, dealing with the personalities involved. Not the X's and O's of business. That's always easy to fix, right? You don't have the people that are executing it in a good place. Everything else goes to shit. So especially in times like this, where you got to work really, really, really hard just to stay where you are and not fall backwards. And the people that you work with start to lose steam, or they start to lose faith, or they start to lose desire to continue to want to do that. As the client services guy, how do you deal with that?
I ask a lot of questions, and I ask a lot of questions that other people are afraid to ask. I simply ask, and if I have to ask a hard question, which I try to do almost on every call, I try to make the other person of the other line or the Zoom call uncomfortable, because nobody has the balls to ask those questions. That's one of my greatest superpowers, is I can ask the hard questions without hurting my client's feelings. I can premise, this is what I say on every opening phone call of every executed contract I've done for 3 years. I say, before you sign on this bottom line, you need to understand that working with me, I will take you to task as much as you take me to task. If you're not holding up your end of the bargain, I will call you out. But it's not comma, and Adam's a bad guy. That will never come out of my mouth because I don't work with bad people. I only work with cool people. But I will always preface it by saying, I am about to ask you a hard question. Are you ready? And if the answer is no, my headspace just isn't, I'm not in a good headspace right now, then fine, we punt till Monday. If I get in a yes, then I say, it feels like you're sabotaging this portion of the project. Why is that? And then the other superpower, you're gonna laugh when I say this. My other superpower is I know when to shut the hell up.
I would buy that.
I do. I am a huge fan of the uncomfortable silence. Huge fan of it. I welcome it, and I actually create it on purpose. Because the moment you stop talking, you put the other person's hat on, and they go, "Oh my God, I have to say something. I have to say something in this moment." So I'll give you a perfect example with one of my very high-profile clients. I go in there and treat them like they're people because they are people. I don't care that they're on TV. I don't care that they throw concerts for 40,000 people. I don't care that they have 600 million YouTube views. I don't care. Like, good for you. Congratulations, you've built a business. But that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to blow smoke up your ass. You get that all day long. You've surrounded yourself with people that blow smoke up your ass all day long. That's not me. I'm here to move your agenda forward. And when I ask you a question, it's going to be potentially uncomfortable, but I'll let you know ahead of time. That's it. And guess what? At the end of the phone call, they all go, "I'm really glad you asked me that question." No kidding. You're glad I asked that question because we can actually move the ball forward and not be and get that out of the way. I call this nibbling around the edges. What a lot of people do is they nibble around the edges. Get to the core of it and move forward as a team. And I think that's really been one of the biggest unlocks for me in this space. And ultimately, that's why, not only just because we get results when people work with me, but I think that's been one of the biggest unlocks for me is truly getting to somebody's core. Because once you verbalize something, that's been one of the biggest unlocks about this show for me. Once you verbalize something, it's out there, it really becomes off of your shoulders and you really feel better about it. And that's how people can grow and move forward.
I'm not gonna lie, that was a dope answer.
It's, I try to be one of the most amicable guys and agreeable guys and positive and upbeat guys. But when we're in the weeds with a client, I'm there to fight tooth and nail. And whether it hurts your feelings or not, in the moment, I couldn't give two shits. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, we're still going to have a beer together. At the end of the day, we're still going to respect each other. But at the end of the day, it's about results. If I have, we use this word a lot, if I have the audacity to charge what I charge these people, and you know the numbers, if I have the audacity to charge these people to put put that number into my account every single month, then sure as heck, I'm gonna bring as much energy as I can to my clients. And there's probably other people that do it better than me out there. I get it. There's plenty of people out there doing it worse than me because I have confirmation of that, and I know these people. But that would be my answer.
So we had a very similar. Our friend Mark Mashallah just ran by.
Awesome.
We had a very similar conversation this morning where I think the biggest thing is just getting people to verbalize intentions. Because we went through it this morning. I had a conversation with someone, and on one hand, I have a lot of empathy for them because they've been one of these businesses that have had to literally work twice as hard to achieve half the result, just with what life looks like out there. And they're talking about going on pause with just everything. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, man, like, it's your business. I'm never going to tell you what to do. Like, what do I know? I'm just the punk kid that posts on Instagram.
Yep.
But I'm like how I phrased it was like, what then? Does the plan, like, if we do that, is our plan then just to sit there and hold our breath until something miraculously gets fixed. And then it's like, you know, and then I literally did what you just said, and I just stopped and waited for an answer to that. And it felt like 2 hours. But then they're like, literally like that's a good point. So what do we do? And I'm like, well, we talk about it. You know, like I go back to the whole exercise analogy all the time. And I'm like, if you were like deathly overweight or you needed to get in better shape and all that, would you just stop? Or would you work out more? Would you get more serious about your diet? Would you do all of these things? Would you hire somebody to put a plan in place so you were doing the right things at the right times? We're like, yeah, well, that makes sense. I'm like, all right, well, now we got something. Let's break this down. You know, and then it's like, and it felt like literally the X's and O's and the mechanics on the marketing and the business side of stuff was super easy, but literally having that conversation, we're like, what am I, like a psychiatrist here? But it's such a big part, going back to last week and the week before, that's such a big part of what we sign up for.
Yeah.
When we do what we do. You know, when everything's great and everybody's happy and everybody's aligned and shit's going good, like that's when it's the most fun. But I look at moments like that where I'm like, we're going to remember that 18 months from now. That conversation that we had and that level of credibility and that level of like, yeah, I'm not going to bullshit you, but like, I'm here with you. Like, let's fucking figure this out. And it's just, that's one thing I really wanted to talk about today, because I think a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people prep for the best case scenario, and they don't realize that having to talk a client off the ledge at 8:45 on a Friday morning is just part of the job description.
They prepare for the best because it's easy. They prepare for the best because success is fun. They prepare for the best because they don't want to acknowledge that the industry that they're in is hard. Everybody wants to celebrate the wins. It's the people that will document the wins and the losses that will be more successful long term. And this is what I tell people. I had clients who, and I use this example all the time with beverage clients, which represents about half of my portfolio right now, that the moment you hit upload to the federal government and the next day they shut down for 95 days, which happened at the beginning of 2018, that's out of my control. But if we don't talk about those things now and those possibilities, sure, we can talk about acquisition, we can talk about Anheuser-Busch, we can talk about Constellation, we can talk about all those things. But ultimately, what happens when you stub your toe? What happens when you get completely blindsided? You know? So we have to talk about those things up front. What? I have a teenager hovering. What? Yeah, how are you getting there? Yeah, that's fine. Drink plenty of water. Bring a towel. Bring your swimsuit. I'll see you on the water shortly. Bye.
We'll talk later. It's fine.
All right, man. I'm going to end the live so we can chat what we need to chat about. I was going to go over here with my live, but of course my live isn't here because my live's on my stupid phone, because this is what we do, right? Ben Claire, good to see you. Thanks for watching. I think Ben's on the golf course. Ben might be on the golf course watching right now.
That means a lot.
In Connecticut.
Damn.
Yep. He's a new business associate of mine, and he's somebody that you should talk to too, because he is a great guy. Claire, good to see you. Ben, good to see you. All right, ending live now. Thanks for joining, everybody. Cheers.